I never wanted to tell this story. I never thought I would say these words out loud to anyone. The story is about the night my brother came to my house. He stood on my doorstep and the rain had made him all wet. His eyes looked empty, like there was nothing inside him. I wanted to keep this story a secret. I planned to take it with me to my grave. It was supposed to be a small thing, a simple favor for my brother, Anish. He needed a place to sleep, just for a night or two. He was trying to learn how to live his life without Arohi. They had been together for a very long time, and now they were not. He needed a couch, a roof, a safe place. That is all it was meant to be. But it became something else. One night, the storm outside was very loud, and that stormy evening changed everything. It broke something open inside of me, something I had put away deep, deep down. I had hidden it so well that I started to believe it was not real. I told myself it did not exist, but it was there, waiting. And that night, it came out. By the time the morning came, my life was different. The simple, quiet life I had made for myself was gone. It had washed away. It slipped through my fingers just like the floodwater that fills the streets of Mumbai during a big storm. It was fast, it was messy, and I could not stop it. My quiet world was gone forever. My name is Yamini. I am 31 years old. I live a very simple life. You could call me the queen of my small kingdom, a kingdom made of food I order from restaurants and crime shows I watch on TV late at night. I lived alone in our parents' old flat. It was in a part of Mumbai called Andheri. The flat had 2 bedrooms. It was my safe place, my fortress. I had lived there for many years, and it protected me from the world outside. One bedroom was for me. I slept there. The other bedroom was not for a person. It was for boxes. Many, many cardboard boxes filled with old things. I always told myself I would look inside those boxes. I would sort through them next weekend, but next weekend never came. The boxes stayed shut and the room stayed full of ghosts from the past. My life was a simple pattern. I worked. I wrote in my journal. I slept. Then I would wake up and do it all over again. Work, write, sleep. It was a loop, a safe, predictable loop. I did not have many friends. I did not go out very much. My fortress was enough for me. My crime shows were my company. The people on the screen had messy lives, and watching them made my simple life feel clean and good. Then one night, the phone rang. It was a Tuesday. The time was 10:30 at night. This was very late for someone to call me. The wind outside was very strong. It was a monsoon storm. The wind made a loud howling sound against my window. It sounded like it was trying to tell me a secret, a piece of gossip it could not hold in. I looked at the phone. It was Anish, my brother. My heart did a strange little jump. He never called this late. Minnie? His voice was so quiet. It was like a thin piece of thread. I could barely hear him over the sound of the wind. It's me. Anish? Is everything okay? I asked, already knowing the answer was no. Can I come over? He asked. His voice was shaking a little. Can I crash at your place? Just for tonight. Just this one night. I can't breathe in this house anymore. Her smell is everywhere. Everything reminds me of her. I just need to get out. My brain wanted to think. It wanted to say, this is not a good idea. Your life is simple. He will make it complicated. My brain wanted to protect my fortress, but my heart did not listen. Before my brain could even make a good argument, I said, yes, of course. Come over. The word left my mouth before I could stop it. It was a reflex, and need to help my little brother. He arrived 20 minutes later. I opened the door, and he looked like a ghost. He looked so much younger than his 28 years. He looked like he was 12 years old again. His hair was wet and stuck to his forehead. He held a broken umbrella in his hand. It was hanging down, sad and useless. It looked like a confession. It looked like it was saying, "I tried to fight the storm, but I lost." I did not know what to say, so I did what I always do when things are hard. I made tea. I went to the kitchen and put a pot on the stove. I put in water, milk, tea leaves, and a lot of ginger. Our mother used to say that ginger tea could fix almost anything. I watched the water boil. The smell of the ginger filled my small kitchen. It was a smell from our childhood, a smell of comfort. I poured the tea into 2 cups and gave one to him. He was sitting on the couch, my old comfortable couch. He looked so small on it. He took the cup, and his hands were cold. I told him he could sleep there. I gave him a pillow and a blanket. Then I went to my room, and I did something I always did. It was a habit from years of living alone. I locked my bedroom door, a little click that separated my world from the rest of the flat. One night, I told myself, just one night, he will sleep on the couch, and in the morning, he will feel better. He will go back to his life, and I will go back to mine. Everything will go back to normal. The fortress will be safe again. I was so wrong. That first night was strange. It was filled with a thick, heavy silence. We were like 2 strangers who were forced to share a room. We moved around each other very carefully, like we were afraid of breaking something. We tiptoed. I sat at my small dining table with my laptop. I opened a document and stared at the white screen. I was pretending to work. I clicked my mouse. I typed a few words and then deleted them. It was a performance. I was trying to look busy and normal. I was trying to show him that his sadness was not affecting me. He sat on the couch. He was pretending to watch TV. I turned it on for him, and the light from the screen filled the dark room. It showed a movie, a comedy. There were people laughing on the TV, but in our flat there was no sound. Anish's eyes were on the screen, but I knew he was not seeing it. His mind was somewhere else. It was in his empty house with the ghost of his lost love. He just stared. His face was blank. I tried to talk to him a little. "Do you want something to eat?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, I'm fine." His voice was still that thin, weak thread. "Are you sure?" I pushed a little. "I have leftovers. Some dal and rice." "No, Minnie." "Thank you." The tea was enough. So we went back to our silence. Me pretending to work, him pretending to watch. After some time, maybe an hour, he started talking. He was telling me a story about his office, about a new project, but his words were slow. They came out one by one, with long pauses in between. In the middle of a sentence, his voice just stopped. I looked at him. His head had fallen to the side. His cheek was pressed against the rough fabric of the couch cushion. He had fallen asleep, right there mid-sentence. He looked so peaceful. The worry lines on his forehead were gone. His mouth was a little open, and he was breathing softly. He looked like the little boy I grew up with, the boy whose scraped knees I used to clean, the boy I used to read stories to. I got up from my chair very quietly. I went to the big cupboard in the hallway where I keep extra blankets. I pulled out my old school quilt. It was a quilt our grandmother had made for me. It was blue and red with a faded picture of Spider-Man on it. It was thin and old, but it was very warm. I walked over to the couch and very carefully I draped the quilt over him. He did not move. I stood there for a long time, much longer than I needed to. I just watched him sleep. I looked at his face. I saw the dried tear tracks on his cheeks. They shone a little in the blue light from the TV. My heart hurt for him. It felt heavy in my chest. I wanted to take away his pain, but I did not know how. I felt so helpless. After a while, I went to my room. I closed the door, but I did not lock it this time. I sat on my bed and opened my journal. The empty page looked back at me. I usually wrote everything in my journal, my thoughts, my feelings, my boring daily routine. But tonight, I could not write. My words felt too small. How could I write about the silence in my living room? How could I describe the look on my brother's face? The words would not come. So I closed the journal. I put it away. I turned off my light and lay in my bed. I could hear the rain. It was still falling hard. It was drumming on the metal air conditioning unit outside my window. The sound was loud and constant. It sounded like the rain wanted to come inside. It sounded like it was knocking, asking to be let in. I listened to that sound for a long time, and eventually, with the sound of the rain filling my ears, I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning to a strange light. It was a gray, watery light. I looked out my window. The world was gone. The street below was not a street anymore. It was a river of brown, dirty water. Cars were half submerged. The small park across the road was a lake. The city had shut down. The news on my phone confirmed it. The trains were all canceled. The main roads were flooded. No one was going anywhere. It was a proper Mumbai monsoon mess. The city was trapped, and so were we. I walked into the living room. Anish was awake. He was sitting up on the couch scrolling through his phone. He looked up at me. There were dark circles under his eyes. He had not slept well. He gave me a small, sad smile. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text message from him, even though he was sitting right in front of me. I looked at him, confused. He just shrugged. I opened the message. It said, "Looks like I'm your roommate till further notice." A strange feeling washed over me. Part of me was annoyed. My fortress had been breached. My quiet routine was broken. I wanted my space back. But another part of me, a part I did not understand, was not annoyed. It was something else. I texted back, "Okay, but you have to help with the dishes." He smiled a real smile this time. It was small, but it was there. "Deal," he said out loud. So, one night turned into 2. 2 nights turned into 3. We were stuck together in my small flat, with the rain and the wind as our only companions. And slowly, a new rhythm started to form. It was not my old rhythm of work, write, sleep. It was a new rhythm for 2 people. By the 3rd day, we had a routine. I would wake up and make coffee for both of us. Since we couldn't go out to buy groceries, we had to be creative with what we had in my kitchen. I cooked, he washed the dishes. We found a bag of lentils and some old rice. I made khichdi, a simple comfort food. It was something our mother used to make for us when we were sick. As I cooked, he would stand in the kitchen with me. He would chop the onions and the garlic. He started to hum. He hummed old songs by a singer named Kishore Kumar. Our father loved those songs. Anish hummed them quietly, almost to himself. While he was chopping the onions, his eyes would water. He would blame the onions. "These onions are really strong," he would say, wiping his eyes. But I knew it was not just the onions. I knew he was crying for Arohi, for his lost love, for his broken heart. I pretended not to notice. I just kept stirring the khichdi. My own routine started to fall apart. My work was forgotten. My laptop stayed closed. My late-night journaling, the thing that always helped me make sense of my world, started to happen later and later. I would be too tired from the day, too tired from the quiet effort of being with him. Eventually, I stopped opening my journal altogether. The pages remained blank. There was too much to say, and I had no words for any of it. The flat started to change. It did not just smell of my single life anymore. It smelled of us. It smelled of the tadka, the fried spices I put in the dal. It smelled of his soap. It smelled of grief. His grief was a real thing in the flat. It was like a third person sitting with us at the table, watching TV with us on the couch. And there was another smell. Something else was in the air. It was a strange electric feeling. A tension. We both felt it. It was there in the long silences between our words. It was there in the way we sometimes looked at each other for a second too long. Neither of us said its name. We were too afraid to. The storm continued for a week. The water on the streets went down a little, then came back up with the next wave of rain. We were still prisoners in my flat. On the 7th night, something new happened. The lights flickered once, twice, and then went out. A deep, sudden darkness fell over us. It was not just the lights. The fan stopped spinning. The refrigerator stopped humming. The whole building went silent. My inverter, the backup power supply, made a sad beeping sound, and then it too died. It gasped its last breath, and we were left in a thick, humid darkness. "Oh, great," Anish said from the couch. His voice was just a shape in the blackness. "Stay there," I said. "I think I have some candles." I felt my way to the kitchen drawers. My hands searched blindly, knocking over spoons and forks. I found a small box. It was a box of birthday candles, old and waxy. I also found a half-used box of matches. I fumbled to light one. The first match broke. The second one fizzled out. The third one finally caught fire. A tiny, brave flame appeared in the dark. I used it to light a few of the birthday candles. I stuck them onto a small plate. They did not give much light, just a small, flickering circle of yellow in the huge darkness. It made the shadows in the room look like giants. Anish had also been searching. "I found something," he said. He held up a pack of playing cards. They were old and soft from use. Remember how we used to play when the power went out at home? I did remember. When we were kids, during monsoon power cuts, our father would light a candle and we would all play cards on the floor. We would play a game called Teen Patty. It was a simple, fun game. A wave of nostalgia washed over me. It was a sweet, sad feeling. "Yes," I said, "I remember." So we sat on the floor in the small circle of candlelight. We put the plate of candles between us. We played Teen Patty, and for a little while, we were not two sad adults in a dark flat. We were 12 and 10 years old again. We laughed. He cheated, just like he used to when he was a boy. I caught him, and I pushed his shoulder. He pushed me back. It was easy. It was normal. The heavy grief and the strange tension seemed to melt away in the warm candlelight. We talked about our childhood, about our parents, about silly things we had forgotten. The candles started to burn down. The wax dripped onto the plate. The flames grew smaller and smaller. We were getting tired. The laughter stopped, and a comfortable silence settled between us. The floor was cold. I could feel the chill through my cotton pants. Anish stretched his legs out. He looked at me. The candlelight made his eyes look soft. "The floor's freezing," he said, his voice low and sleepy. He paused for a moment. "Your bed is big. Do you mind if I crash there? Just for tonight. I don't want to sleep on the cold floor." His words hung in the air between us. A loud alarm went off in my head. It was the smart part of my brain. It was screaming, "No! Bad idea. This is a bad, bad, bad idea. He is your brother. This is your bed, your private space. Don't do it." It was the part of me that built the fortress and locked the doors. But there was another part of me, a part that was tired. So tired. Tired of being alone, tired of the heavy silence, tired of being strong. That part of me just shrugged. It was the part that remembered laughing with him just a few minutes ago. It was the part that saw the sad little boy in the grown man. I did not listen to the alarm in my head. I looked at him, and I just nodded. I did not say a word. I just nodded my head up and down one time. We blew out the last candle. In the darkness, we made our way to my bedroom. My heart was beating a little faster. I tried to make it normal. I gave him one of my 2 pillows. I pulled the blanket from my side of the bed and gave it to him. I took the extra blanket from my cupboard for myself. 2 pillows, 2 separate blankets. I made sure there was a large space between us on the mattress, a whole continent of mattress between us, a safe distance, or so I thought. I fell asleep, but it was not a deep sleep. I was aware of everything. I was aware of the sound of the storm outside. The rain was still hitting the window. The thunder was a low rumble in the distance, and I was aware of him. I could hear his soft breathing next to me in the dark. It was a strange feeling having another person in my bed after so many years of sleeping alone. It was not scary. It was comforting. At some point deep in the night, the storm got much worse. A loud crack of thunder woke me up completely. It was so loud that the window pane vibrated. The storm was not in the distance anymore. It was right on top of us. It was throwing a proper tantrum, a loud and angry fit. My eyes were open in the darkness. My heart was pounding from the thunder. And then I realized something. I was not on my side of the bed anymore. The continent of mattress between us was gone. I had moved in my sleep. I was curled up and my back was pressed against his back. He was warm. He was solid. And my arm was slung over his waist. It was just lying there, like it belonged there. My heart started pounding even harder, but not because of the thunder this time. What am I doing? I thought. Move. Move your arm right now. But I didn't. For a second, I just let it stay there. It felt right. It felt safe. The warmth from his body seeped into mine. Then he moved. He shifted his body a little. I thought he was still asleep, but then he spoke. He murmured my name. Minnie? His voice was not the sleepy mumble of someone talking in a dream. It was a question. It was quiet and questioning. He was awake. He knew my arm was around him. My whole body went hot with shame and panic. I had to say something. I had to explain. Bad dream. I whispered into the darkness. The words came out shaky. It was a lie, a stupid, clumsy lie. I was not having a bad dream. In fact, for the first time in a long time, I felt strangely peaceful. He was quiet for a moment. I thought he would move away. I thought he would tell me to go back to my side of the bed. But he didn't. Instead, he reached back with his hand and he patted my wrist. It was a gentle pat, a calming gesture, like he was saying, "It's okay. I'm here." But then the pat changed. It stopped being a pat. His hand stayed on my wrist. His thumb started to move. It made a slow, lazy circle on my skin. It was an absent-minded stroke, like I was a cat he was petting without even realizing he was doing it. The touch sent a shiver through my whole body. It was not a brotherly touch. It was something else, something different, something dangerous. The storm raged outside. Another crash of thunder shook the room. My lie about the bad dream felt thin and stupid. The truth was hanging in the air between us, unspoken. The truth was that I was lonely, and he was lonely, and we were two people in the dark seeking warmth. Somewhere between one thunderclap and the next, the last little bit of space between us disappeared. I don't know who moved first. Maybe he shifted back a little. Maybe I leaned in a little closer. It did not matter. Our bodies were now pressed together. The line we had so carefully drawn had been crossed. We did not speak. We just lay there listening to the storm inside and outside, pretending we did not know what was happening. The morning came too soon. The sunlight hit my eyelids like a physical slap. It was bright and harsh and unforgiving. The storm had passed. The sky was a clear, clean blue. The world outside looked washed and new. But inside my room, everything felt old and dirty. I was still tangled up with him. The morning light showed me everything I could not see in the dark. My leg was between his. His arm was now around me. We were a mess of limbs and blankets. The intimacy of it in the bright light of day felt shameful. We both woke up at the same time. Our eyes opened. We looked at each other, and then we scrambled apart. It was a rush of awkwardness, a chaos of sharp elbows and knees knocking together. We untangled ourselves like we had been burned. "Sorry," he mumbled, not looking at me. He sat up and rubbed his face. "It's okay," I mumbled back, pulling my blanket up to my chin. The silence in the room was terrible. It was worse than the silence of the first night. This silence was full of things we could not say. It was full of the memory of what had just happened. He got out of bed quickly. He grabbed his toothbrush from his bag and almost ran to the bathroom. I got up and went to the kitchen. My hands were shaking. I tried to make coffee, but I was clumsy. I grabbed the sugar container and it slipped from my fingers. White sugar crystals spilled all over the kitchen counter and the floor. It was a mess, a perfect metaphor for how I was feeling. He came out of the bathroom. We tried to talk. We tried to be normal, but our conversation was brittle. It was bright and fake. "The rain stopped," he said, looking out the window. "Yes," I said, cleaning up the sugar. "Looks like a nice day." "I think the trains will be running today," he said. "Probably," I answered. We talked about the weather. We talked about cricket scores. We talked about anything and everything except the one thing that was screaming in the space between us. We did not look at each other. Not really. We just looked at the wall, at the floor, at our coffee cups. Over coffee, he finally said it. He cleared his throat. "I think I'll move my things to the spare room tonight," he said, his eyes fixed on his cup. "I'll get the boxes out of the way." I nodded too quickly. "Yes. Okay. That's a good idea." The words rushed out of my mouth. Relief flooded through me. Yes, the spare room was a good idea. A separate room, a closed door between us. But right after the relief, another feeling came. It was a complicated, twisting feeling in my chest. It felt a little bit like disappointment, and that feeling scared me more than anything. That night, just as we were getting ready for bed, the power died again. It was almost funny, a dark joke from the universe. We had both seen it coming. The lights had been flickering all evening. This time, we were prepared. I had a battery-powered lamp ready on the kitchen counter. He had put our phones on airplane mode to save the battery. He had spent the afternoon clearing a small space in the spare room. He had moved the boxes to one side. He had put his blanket and pillow on the floor in there. But when the darkness fell, he did not go to his room, and I did not tell him to. We ended up in the living room. We lay down on the floor on a rug side by side. We were not touching. There was a safe foot of space between us. The battery lamp cast a soft, steady glow. We started talking. We talked for hours. We talked about everything to avoid talking about the one thing we were really talking around. We talked about our childhood. We argued about which Vadapav stall in our old neighborhood was the best. He said it was the one near the station. I said it was the one near the park. We laughed about it. We talked about the cartoons we used to watch in the 90s. He said they were overrated. I told him he was crazy. The conversation was easy and light. It felt like we were siblings again. The tension from the morning seemed to have gone. But it was still there, underneath, hiding in the shadows, just outside the circle of light from the lamp. Somewhere in the middle of our argument about cartoons, his hand moved. It moved across the small space between us and found my hand. He did not grab it. He just rested his hand on top of mine. His fingers were warm. My breath caught in my throat. I should have pulled my hand away. That is what I should have done, but I didn't. Instead, I squeezed his hand, just a little squeeze. He squeezed back. The conversation died. There were no more words. There was only the sound of our breathing and the soft hum of the rain that had started again outside. Then he started to move. He leaned in towards me. It was in slow motion, like a scene from a movie. I watched him come closer. His face was serious. His eyes were looking at mine. My brain was a mess of screaming voices. Stop him. Say something. This is wrong. He is your brother. But my body did not move. I did not stop him. I think I wanted it to happen. His lips touched mine. It was not a pretty kiss. It was not like in the movies. It was clumsy. Our teeth clicked together. My nose bumped against his cheek. But it was real. It was so real. It was warm. It was desperate. It was the kind of kiss that says things words can't say. It was a kiss that screamed, I am lost and broken and drowning, and you are the only oxygen in this whole dark room. We stayed like that for a long moment. When we finally pulled apart, we did not move away from each other. Our foreheads were still touching. Our breath mingled in the small space between us. He whispered my name. Then he said the words we both knew were true. We can't. His voice was full of sadness. I whispered back, I know. But neither of us moved. We just stayed there, our foreheads touching, in the soft light of the battery lamp as the rain fell outside. We knew it was wrong. But in that one moment, it felt like the only thing in the world that made sense. The next morning was a new kind of hell. It was worse than the morning after we first slept in the same bed. Much worse. The awkwardness was gone. In its place was a heavy, suffocating silence. A silence that was full of guilt and regret. A silence that was eating us alive. We moved around each other like two planets that were trying very hard not to collide. We orbited each other in the small flat. If I was in the kitchen, he would stay in the living room. If he walked towards the kitchen, I would quickly find a reason to go to my bedroom. We did not speak. We did not look at each other. The air was so thick with unspoken things that I felt like I could not breathe. He started packing his bag. He folded a shirt and put it in his small duffel bag. Then he took it out and unfolded it. Then he folded it again. He paced around the living room like a caged animal. Back and forth, back and forth. His face was a mask of confusion and pain. He was at war with himself. I could not stand to be in the same room as him. I went into the kitchen. I needed to do something with my hands. I saw a small stain on the floor tiles. I got down on my hands and knees. I took a scrubbing brush and some soap, and I started scrubbing. I scrubbed that one spot for a long, long time. I scrubbed until the tile was clean, and then I kept scrubbing. I scrubbed until my knuckles were red and raw. I scrubbed until they started to bleed a little. The physical pain was a welcome distraction from the much bigger pain inside my chest. I was trying to scrub away the memory of the night before. I was trying to scrub away the feeling of his lips on mine. I was trying to scrub away the guilt, but it would not go away. Finally, after hours of this terrible silence, he stopped pacing. He stood in the doorway of the kitchen. I was still on the floor, my hands in a bucket of dirty water. I did not look up at him. "I have to go," he said. His voice was rough. I nodded. I still did not look up. He took a deep breath. "I need space," he said. "I need to go away and figure out how to be a human being again." His words were like a punch in the stomach, but I understood what he was really saying. The translation was clear. I need to get away from you. I can't look at you without remembering what we did. I can't look at you without hating myself. "Okay," I whispered to the floor tiles. I heard him pick up his bag. I heard his footsteps as he walked to the door. I heard the door open, and then I heard it close. And he was gone. The moment the door clicked shut, the silence in the flat changed. It was no longer a heavy, suffocating silence for two people. It was a vast, empty silence for one. The flat felt huge. It echoed. Every small sound I made, the drip of the faucet, the sigh that escaped my lips sounded loud and lonely. His presence was gone, but he was also everywhere. A coffee cup he had used was still on the table. The dent he had made in the couch cushion was still there. The whole flat smelled faintly of him. I walked through the empty rooms like a ghost. I went to the spare room. The space he had cleared was there. His blanket and pillow were still on the floor. I picked up his blanket. It was the old Spider-Man quilt. I held it in my arms. I could still smell him on it. I carried it to the couch in the living room where he had slept that first night. I folded it and placed it there. Then, a few minutes later, I picked it up again. I took it to the spare room and put it back on the floor. Then I moved it back to the couch. I did this 2 or 3 times. I did not know where it belonged anymore. Nothing belonged where it was supposed to be. That night, I took out my journal. For the first time in over a week, I wrote. But the words were not neat. They were not my usual careful thoughts. The pages were a mess. My handwriting was a disaster of messy loops and sharp, angry lines. The page became stained with my tears. I wrote his name over and over again. I wrote, "What did we do? What have I done?" The days that followed were long and gray. He had promised to call, but he didn't. My phone remained silent. My life went back to its old rhythm, but it was broken. It did not feel safe anymore. It felt empty. The fortress was just a cage now. Some nights I would wake up in the middle of the night. My hand would be reaching out to the other side of the bed, searching for a warmth that was not there. The emptiness of the other side of the bed felt like a cold physical presence. Some mornings I would be in the kitchen making coffee, and I would catch myself humming. I would realize it was one of the old Kishore Kumar songs he had been humming, and the grief would hit me all over again. The rain didn't stop for days. It just kept falling. A sad, steady drizzle that made the whole city look like it was crying, and the ache in my chest didn't stop either. It was a constant, dull pain, a reminder of my brother and of the secret that now lived between us. People like to draw lines. We all do. We draw neat, clean lines to make sense of the world. This is family. This is a friend. This is a stranger. This is love. This is friendship. The lines help us understand our place. They make us feel safe. My whole life was built on these lines. But that week, during the storm, I learned that these lines are not as strong as we think. When you put two lonely people in a small space, when you add a storm of grief, the lines begin to blur. They smudge. They disappear. Grief and loneliness are like water. They can seep through any crack. They can wash away the neatest lines we draw. Do I regret what happened? It is a question I ask myself every single day. The answer is never the same. Some days the shame is so strong I can barely breathe. On those days, yes, I regret it with every part of my being. I regret the kiss. I regret the weakness. I regret destroying the one pure relationship I had in my life. But on other days, no. I do not regret it. I remember the feeling of not being alone in the dark. I remember the warmth of his body next to mine. I remember the feeling of being seen, of being understood, even if it was just for a moment. On those days, I don't regret the comfort we found in each other. Mostly, though, beyond the regret and the shame, there's a simpler feeling. Mostly, I just miss my brother. I miss the boy I played cards with. I miss the man who hummed old songs while he chopped onions. I miss the easy, simple way we used to be. I am afraid I have lost that forever. The rain still comes to Mumbai every year, and every time it rains, the smell takes me back to that night. The smell of wet earth, the smell of the cardamom chai I made for him, and the smell of something else, something forbidden, the smell of a line being crossed. I don't know what we are now. We are not just brother and sister anymore. We are something else, something broken, something complicated. I don't know if we can ever go back. Maybe we can't. Maybe healing isn't about erasing the past. It's not about pretending it didn't happen. Maybe healing is about learning how to carry the past with you, learning how to hold its weight without letting it crush you completely. If you have ever had a moment like this, a moment that cracked your whole world open, I want you to know you are not alone. Tell me your story in the comments if you feel brave enough. How do you live with the choices you've made? How do you forgive yourself for wanting comfort from a place you were told was wrong? Or maybe when you are drowning, there is no wrong place to reach for. Maybe there is just the need to breathe. Maybe there is just being human. If this story touched you, like it, share it. Do whatever you need to do to feel a little less alone in this big, confusing world. We are all just stumbling through the dark. We are all just looking for a little bit of light.